In this video, I'm going to walk you through the difference between inner orbit and a typical item bank or a teacher-created bank of questions. All of our assessments focus on phenomena. With those phenomena, we have data sets and model student responses that students can look at and respond to, and then different scaffolded questions to help address the complexity of the NGSS. The first questions that are aligned to each of the phenomena will focus on prior grade level bands knowledge only. With the NGSS, the level of complexity expected of students is very high, so at first we want to assess knowledge that students should have learned in prior grade level bands to make sure they're ready for the complexity of the current grade level band content. As we go down in each question cluster, questions will become more complex and ask students to do more complex things, such as use models or identify systems and system models and talk about the interactions between those things. Each cluster of questions includes eye-catching phenomena and GIFs, and data for students to grapple with. All of the assessment clusters will include questions that ask basic knowledge level questions of prior grade level bands, and they get into more complex questioning where students are asked to grapple with and approach the level of complexity of the standard at their grade level. All of these questions that we're hovering over are tagged to very specific elements of the standards. The practices, which are the skills students need, the DCIs, which is the knowledge that students should acquire, and then the cross-cutting concepts, which are the thematic elements that students should learn and that spiral up from kindergarten through 12th grade. As teachers go through and look through our clusters of questions, they don't need to worry about writing questions that assess background knowledge, writing formative questions, or writing more summative questions. All of these are already included within the platform, and they're clearly grouped into pre-made assessments for teachers to immediately use to gather data on student progress and scaffold up to the NGSS. Our reports go far beyond any other platform because each question is tagged with discrete levels of data. For each standard within the NGSS, there are DCIs, that's the knowledge students should acquire, SEPs, which are the skills students should have, and the cross-cutting concepts, which are thematic elements like system and system models. Within each of these standards, there are elements that students should learn in grades 3-5, in 6-8, and in 9-12. Our reports display each of these specific and discrete elements. As middle school students are assessed on 3rd through 5th grade content, we show that these students in this classroom struggle with the idea that forces have strength and direction. They also struggled with the idea that there are force pairs for interacting objects, but they answered questions correctly around net force, which means as a middle school teacher or a high school teacher assessing prior knowledge, I know that we need to talk about vectors before we get into the complexities of Newton's laws. For the SEPs, which are the skills that students will build upon from kindergarten through 12th grade, we track discrete elements. When assigning multiple choice questions that are really low rigor, we're not going to see reports on many different elements, and we'll only be able to make very discrete claims about student learning and progress. For response questions, we'll be able to make much broader claims about students making progress or needing help in specific skills, such as constructing an explanation with models or applying scientific reasoning to show why data or evidence is adequate. Each of these things are tagged discretely to each question in our database so that we can report back on student level, classroom, school, or district level what skills are needed for students to review. Our longitudinal reports show the same level of detail, but for a specific cohort of students, and looking at them over the course of time. Our school and district-wide reports show this data in aggregate, or divided up between cohorts of students. So we can look at how all students within the district are performing on matter and its interactions, chemical reactions, and what elements in 6-8 have been assessed, and how well students have performed on those. This allows us to go deep and be specific with the support we give students and teachers so that teachers have the lessons and materials they need to support students, and students are assessed on each individual element. All of these bullet points we see here are specific pieces of knowledge that students should learn throughout the course of 6th through 8th grade. In order to be successful in grades 9 through 12, they will need to demonstrate success and proficiency on elements from 6-8. Our assessments are written for high school teachers to give middle school level assessments that assess background knowledge and assess the skills students should have learned before, and then give those same teachers detailed reports on the specific elements on grade level that students should be achieving so that at the district level, administrators can support teachers with specific resources and professional development, and teachers can support students with very, very discrete elements of knowledge and skills that they need help with. The biggest difference between InterOrbit and an item bank is that we give students real-world and complex problems that they need to make sense of and think critically about. That way, for statewide tests, students are able to perform far, far better because they've had experience looking at these complex phenomena and grappling with these complex ideas. Most of the item bank questions that we've seen ask students to do simple things while looking at general examples and not allowing students to think critically and analyze novel phenomena. The statewide tests will ask students to analyze phenomena, so if we don't prepare them with phenomena constantly throughout the year in formative and summative assessments, then students will inevitably struggle with that end-of-year task.